Hello all my beloved students. By receiving the same question raised in online class asking me the difference between the notions of nation and state, I would like to take this opportunity to provide the explanation in a nutshell about the above commonly misused words. A nation, despite there is no widely or internationally accepted definition up until now, it can be defined as a population that has cohesiveness, a population that has the same shared history, the same cultures and traditions, and often but not always the same common language. It means that they speak the same language. To illustrate, let's look at the case of Cambodian people. As of May 3rd, 2021, Cambodian population is approximately 16,119,475 people. This population has been considered as a nation. Why this population has been considered as a nation? Because these populations has the same shared history. This population has the same cultures and traditions, and this population also speak the same language. Despite other ethnic minority groups speak different languages, particularly population who reside in Ratanakiri, Mundulkiri, Stumtreng, and Krati. However, they still considered as the populations, they keep considered as the nations of Cambodia. This population live under the control or a government, which is considered as a state, known as Cambodia. So, what is a state, or what state can be defined? A state is a form of the government that has sovereignty, full sovereignty, and enough power in order to enforce its writ. The word writ here I refer to the authorities. According to Article 1 of the Montevideo Conventions on the Right and Theory of States, it says, state that can be considered as person, that can be considered as a person in international law. I repeat my phrase again. A state that can be considered as a person in international law, that state need to possess 4 qualifications. The first qualifications, that state need to have a permanent population. Second qualification, that state need to have a defined territory. That state need to also have a government. That is the point that I raised already. And the fourth qualification, that state need to have the capacity to enter into relation with the other state. So now let's analyze each qualification by comparing the real situation of Cambodia. Let's see the first qualification that says state need to have a defined territory. State need to have a permanent population. I mentioned already, Cambodia right now, the population of Cambodia right now is approximately 16 million people. See? So it means that Cambodia has its own permanent population. The second qualification, a defined territory. Cambodia's square, recognized by the United Nations map, is 181,035 square kilometer. See? So this is a defined territory that Cambodia has and internationally recognized, particularly by the United Nations. Third qualification, Cambodia need to have a government. As the time that I'm speaking to you all, Cambodia has been in the mid of its 5th legislative mandate. We have, because Cambodia uphold parliamentary system, we have His Majesty the King, who is the head of states, and we have prime minister and its cabinet, who is the head of the government. Cambodia also has the capacity into relation with the other states. Before I mention about the capacity of Cambodia into relation with the other state, let me remind the past history that Cambodia became states member into international organizations. Cambodia became United Nations Organization member states, if I'm not mistaken, in 14 December 1955. 10 years after World War II finished. 10 years after World War II finished, or World War II ended, because World War I erupted and ended between 1914 and 1918. Second World War erupted and ended between 1939 and 1945. So 10 years later, Cambodia became the member state of the United Nations Organization, which is the biggest international organization in the world. Moreover, Cambodia also became member state of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, in 30 April 1999. So this is the point that I would like to raise, that Cambodia has the ability to become full membership of or into international organizations and also regional organizations. Related to the capacity to enter into relations with other states, we can see that Cambodia can have equally diplomatic relations with several countries in the world. Let me raise some only. Cambodia has diplomatic relations with the United States of America. Cambodia also has diplomatic relations with France. Cambodia also has diplomatic relations with Republic of China, and Cambodia also have diplomatic relations with Russia and United Kingdom, which these countries are called superpower countries in the world, or this country has been called as the permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Not only these 5 countries that Cambodia has diplomatic relation or has the full capacity into relation with other states also. So this is what I would like to mention, that Cambodia has full capacity in order to enter into relation with those states in the world. So Cambodia satisfy the 4 qualifications as I already mentioned, particularly in Article 1 of the Montevideo Conventions on the Right and Duty of State promulgated in 1933 in Uruguay. Once again, the permanent population, a defined territory, a government, and a capacity into relation with other states. These 4 qualifications Cambodia require. So Cambodia is a state. Cambodia is a state. And Cambodia is also a state and statehood, which is recognized by international organization called United Nations. So in conclusion, a nation is like a group of population that live together in a government of a state. The population that they have common language, common culture and tradition, and the same shared history, they are called nation. This nation cannot be alone. This nation need to have a government in order to control them. That government is called a state. in the case of Cambodia, is Kingdom of Cambodia. So I do believe that I answer the question raised about the difference between nation and states. And there also another question asked between nation and state in terms of who create who, meaning that state came first or nation came first. The question would like to ask me whether state created nations or nation created states. Because of the time, I do believe that I have no enough time to provide sufficient explanation about the last question, and I promise that I'm going to explain the second question asking me who came first between a nation and a state in my next video. So I do believe that I spent rather a lot of time providing a short explanation about the two commonly misused words, nation and state, and I would like to end my short explanation by this. And I do believe that this video will find you well, and this video will more or less be helpful for your study and research. Thank you so much for your attention.